Hello and welcome to our video contemplation of month signature 47. This frequency corresponds with the Three of Wands, the wand virtue of charisma, and the prime instinct to cherish. It is represented by the angels of love and alchemy.
We have the 25th angel of love, who walks the pathway of appreciation to become the embodiment of radiance. And we also have the 47th angel of alchemy, who walks the pathway of narrative design to become the embodiment of paradise.
Really, really excited to be here today to talk about this grouping of frequency correspondences, these angels, everything that we've connected to the angels, even just in the past month. But perhaps equally significantly, I feel really excited to share with them, with all of you, what this past month has been like for us.
Right, because what we're discussing is basically this movement from the themes of the month of January, and now being February 1st of 2025, we're encountering a whole new host of themes based on what we just mentioned.
Yes.
And it's really exciting because we just lived January. So
Yes.
we know that all of those themes played out like just flawlessly. It was amazing to live.
Yeah.
And now, so I'm even more excited to see what February is going to bring, because I mean, every set of themes are amazing. So you really can't go wrong.
You can never go wrong. But being able to gather a sense for what's coming at the start of a month and then live that month with an eye trained toward those things, it has proven to be profoundly beneficial. We're fairly new to this idea of a day signature, even newer to this idea of a month signature, and it's our first conscious encounter of a new year signature. All of this is happening all at once. It's all fresh. But with every day that passes, we get a clearer sense of how profound a day signature can be if we're attuned to it, if we're paying attention. And now, with January under our belts, we have the first month of a new year where we were able to move through that month with complete conscious awareness of the aura, the energies, the lessons of that month. And it really was special. January, I told you last night, I think that was the best month I've ever lived.
Yeah, you did say that, and I'd have to agree. It's really something to realize that when you are consciously choosing what themes that you're actually interested in encountering, you know, there's so many ideas out there of what the energies are telling us, what they're all about. Astrology has their take, different systems have their take, but what we're offering is something that is entirely empowering and uplifting, and, you know, just it's a positive movement no matter what.
Yes.
So to actually be able to put a name to what those themes are and then live them and say, yes, because we chose them, we were consciously aware of them, they bore fruit.
Yeah.
That is in and of itself an amazing thing to be able to proclaim, like that happened, and we are now witnesses of it, and just excited proponents of this power of like choose what you want to live.
Yeah.
So
that's a real power.
Yeah.
That's not a cute thing to say. And it's so interesting, I think, for both of us, having spent so many years, the better portion of an adult life, just poring over information that seemed to indicate the same. The difference between reading about it and living it it makes all the difference in the world. It's immeasurable, the difference between reading about it or talking about it and actually living it with a clear awareness as to what it is that you're living, as to which power it is that you are now purposefully applying. The fact that we get to choose the narrative that we are going to live into any given moment of our lives, any given day, any given month, that's huge. And if we do, in fact, have a power which we activate through our awareness, through our expectation of what's going to come, and we, of course, would strongly confirm through our experience that we do, we do have that power, then we ought to become really effective storytellers. We ought to become very involved in defining for ourselves what the quality of that story will be. We don't need to write anyone else's story for them. We don't need to convince anyone else. We don't need to convince anyone else in the world that these signatures are valuable. We have all the proof that we need because we've allowed them to become valuable and witnessed how that value plays out in form, in real life, in practical ways that we can tell you about. So January was awesome because that's what happened. We selected a narrative based upon everything the angels have shown us, everything the Liberated Tarot has shown us, everything life has made us aware of, and we just allowed that to be true. And then it was true. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to do it again for February. And having seen how direct that link was in January, we are thrilled to meet day 1 of February. We went to bed last night wanting to wake up today. It's like you don't even want to go to sleep because you're so excited to get into the new day, or you want to go to sleep faster so you can get to the new day sooner. In either case, it's so much excitement brought into this conversation, into this day, into this month. But before we share with you what we're seeing in February, we're hoping to give you a little bit of a recap on the month of January. Obviously, we loved January. Yeah. Obviously, it was amazing.
Right. And because we're actually moving through the Liberated Tarot sequence day by day, month by month, mm-hmm. we're actually in this flow of themes. So these themes actually build on each other.
Developmental.
So January actually is very pertinent to what we're going to encounter in February. Mm-hmm. It's important to recap, especially if you want to extract the most benefit of it from it and be extra clear on what is actually happening. What are you co-creating, with? What's it all about?
Yeah, this isn't just our personal record of affairs. This is in some cases, we'll use examples to demonstrate what you've just said, but what we have here is a defined developmental sequence. So in January, we were working with the signature 46, the frequency 46, right. which was correlated to the Two of Wands, the wand virtue of acceleration. And do you recall what the prime instinct was?
To surrender.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we were really harping on this idea of surrender to your delight, surrender to your obsession. Yeah. This leads to, so the angel was discovery, and it leads to this embodiment of genius. And the 46th angel is the pathway of permission. So it was permit your delight, surrender to that, see what is actually going to happen. You will absolutely experience this acceleration if you do.
So what you just did was you wove together all these different words and themes from January. But just to be clear for our viewers, there were 2 angels we were working with. Mm-hmm. The 24th angel of discovery, who mm-hmm. walks the pathway of obsession to become the embodiment of genius.
Yes.
Picked up on those words in what Laura just shared. And the 46th angel of delight, who walks the pathway of permission to become the embodiment of sensuality.
Yes.
So what you were just able to do is deftly communicate what we experienced in January. And the reason that happens now on this side of January is because we're not just sharing words. At the start of a given month, we're wide open to what may happen. We share the words because we are excited to witness how those words bear fruit in reality, in our tangible experience. But at the beginning of a month, it's like this theoretical opening toward possibility. By the end of the month, it's like, we did that. We literally chose to permit our delight, even in those cases where it maybe didn't seem to make logistical or practical sense. We chose anyway to follow that call of delight within our hearts, and we witnessed how that exploded into form all around us, into experiences, into items, into more love, more delight, more joy. Mm-hmm. We watched that happen. We allowed ourselves to obsess over things which we had shelved because each of us in our own way thought perhaps they weren't productive.
Yeah.
Think about that difference between productive and beneficial. Mm-hmm. All along the way, they were beneficial, would have been beneficial, but they were sitting on a shelf because we thought maybe they wouldn't create something others might value, or because we thought they wouldn't be productive in some professional way.
Right. We couldn't see the practical application of spending our time
right
on it.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of trained in life to to make that compromise, to say, well, I guess I need to put this over here because there are all these far more important practical matters I need to give my attention, my time, my energy, my money to. We kind of wiped the slate clean in January on purpose. We made this commitment to you in our last recording that we would use January as an opportunity to permit ourselves to play,
Mm-hmm.
to permit ourselves to delight in life, whatever that might look like. And as a direct result of this, all of these other pieces of the puzzle fell into place. The genius absolutely fell into place. There are things that we reawakened in January that are directly tied to each of our unique areas of genius. Again, each of these things were sidelined because we didn't think they were important enough to have a central place in our life. Well, needless to say, now those things are central, and those things will remain central. A great part of this sequential development, this sequence, the way that one piece builds on the next, is that every piece you regather to yourself, you reclaim,
Yes.
is like a brick laid. It's not like you learned it in January, then you release it, and you're going to learn a new one now. You're building. And so everything that we committed to and everything that we benefited through, gained wisdom through in January, now becomes a contributor to February,
Right.
which I think is what you were saying earlier too.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It reminds me of this idea that we are all like very unique but very integral pieces of this giant puzzle that is life. If we're not part of it, then the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
It's just like that with our interests, with what delights us. And if we don't permit ourselves to follow that excitement, it's like a piece of the puzzle is missing from your foundation. And just because you can't see how all of these different pieces fit together into the puzzle that is you and what you're here to express doesn't mean that it's not relevant. There's a greater wisdom that we just have to trust when we're following our excitement, that every little piece is going to lock in together. And that's what we're doing and we're witnessing.
It's almost more significant. It's almost more relevant when you can't see how it's going to fit in, because those are the very things that tend to be expressive of your unique story, your genius. We have the paint by numbers answers and we think we're supposed to use them, but we're all original artists. There is no paint by number for you. You're here to produce something new, and only you can do that. So it's ironic and paradoxical and terrifying sometimes, but the reality is that those very areas you feel most insecure about, those very areas you are most willing to compromise or to put on the shelf, those are the very things you need to bring to the front and center of your experience. Those are the very things that are waiting to bear fruit, that are waiting to be productive in ways that far exceed your strategic understanding. You don't get to see what's going to happen from the start. You get to trust now and witness what happens when you do. An altogether different reality explodes into being when you do this.
Yeah. It's also reminding me of our year signature, which is the 45. And we talked about it in this video that we did on the year signature, but it was all about taking ownership of your role and taking action. And we can really see how this is the year to really be taking action on what seems like little things that delight you that are going to add up. And in so doing, you will be taking ownership of your life, and taking ownership of everything you're here to do, and then witnessing what becomes of it.
Yes. You don't need to see how they're going to add up. Again, often you will not even be able to imagine how they could possibly add up. But be aware that those corners of your reality, they will surprise you. They're meant to surprise you. The fact that you don't know is the perfect stage for surprise. So an example of this, we'll share a real example before we move on. Obviously, we're speaking in generalities because we want this to connect to you. But when we offer you a real example, you can see how human this is. And then hopefully permit your own version of that same humanness so that your own story can play out as a result. A beautiful example for us is crystals. Is that what you were thinking of?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been the most shareable, obvious example that totally was something that we'd kind of put to the side. We've been, so focused on the Liberated Tarot and the angels, a lot of information
Mm-hmm.
that we've absolutely just loved. But what we kind of ended up doing is putting our mutual love of crystals kind of on the shelf, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Totally reawakened in January. And it was entirely because of that awareness of what we were meant to be doing this month,
Mm-hmm.
that we allowed ourselves to follow that thread.
Yeah.
To just bring all the crystals out of storage and play.
Yes. So for those of you who don't have a long history of connection to us, it's worth noting that each of us has a history with minerals, and not just a general playful history, but a professional one. I'm the creator of Mineral Allies, and I shared Mineral Allies as a service, as a product for years. I would host events training Mineral Allies how to make use of crystals in meaningful ways, how to take their lessons personally. Mineral Allies was beautiful and a necessary contributor to my own experience, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And Laura, what did you create?
So I had a business called Aura Minerals,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I would do is actually create reports for people where I would pair their crystals with their birth charts. And also locally, where we live in New York State, it's the home of the Herkimer Diamonds. So I actually would interact with the miners who would find these crystals. And it was just such a huge part of my life for a period of time that, again, is just something that I assumed was part of my past, but nothing is ever lost.
Nothing is ever lost. And that's the thing that really surprised us in January, because I can't speak for you, but I know for myself, we even talked about this. Mineral Allies it never seemed as exciting for the world around me as it felt to me. It never made a lot of money. So from a business perspective, from a strategic standpoint, there's little reason to resurrect that. And the stones that I had collected, even what feels like a museum's quantity and quality worth of stones that you've collected, they've literally been in storage in our garage. They weren't even in our home. They were in a separate building in the cold, literally left out in the cold, cared for, packaged nicely, but set aside. And it did, in fact, take a degree of courage or crazy to say, you know what? Of all the things we could be doing now, today, or now, this month, we're going to allow our love of crystals to be what it is. This was not something we had to pretend or manufacture. At some point along the way in this month, life's magical messages, these little breadcrumbs that we follow day in and day out, led us to a place where this began to emerge again. An authentic, genuine excitement for crystals started to emerge. At that point, we each had a decision to make. We could either permit that and see what happened or not. It was a delightful feeling. It was an excited feeling. And so we knew what to do. We chose to permit our delight. Had we not done this, all of those crystals would still be in the garage. We'd be working in another direction. And none of the things that exploded to life as a result of our permitting this particular delight would have ever played out, because we would have been focused elsewhere. So it was a choice point. It was not random. It was specific. We recognized it when it arrived, and we allowed it to happen. And the moment we allowed it to happen, as quickly as we could agree that we were going to allow ourselves to be excited about crystals, it was all we could think about, all we could talk about. We were back and forth from the garage multiple times a day, and it's been a cold month. So it was like, a big deal getting bundled up, going out there, digging snow, trail of snow to get to the garage. I mean, it was like a thing, and it was worth it. We surrounded ourselves with our friends. And as a result of this, we've had conversations we would not have had. We've come closer as a result of being able to share something that we mutually enjoy. That was an unexpected benefit. We've received messages from the angels and the crystals. And finally, for the first time ever, can I give the punchline?
Sure.
I think it's a punchline. We've managed to pair, with the help of the crystals and the angels, we've managed to pair every one of the 64 angels to a unique mineral. So our angel index now includes angel ally pairings for the first time. This is something we've dreamt of for as long as we've been engaged with any of these energies, the stones, the the angels before we even knew what they were called.
Mm-hmm.
We've always wanted to be able to connect these dots, even at certain points early on when we were meeting the angels. We've tried to do this
Mm-hmm.
and couldn't.
Right.
It was meant to happen now. It was meant to happen in the energy of delight and permission and play. And this obsession was meant to deliver a whole new world of correspondences that we have only just begun to encounter as a fresh form of enrichment in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was amazing to realize that that was a missing piece, just waiting to
Mm-hmm.
merge with our world of everything that we've created in 2024.
Yeah.
2024 was not the year for crystals to show up, but it all happened in 1 month in January.
You're right. When it happened, it's been a month. It didn't take nearly that long. It's like it was pop, 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 pop. It was real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And as quick as it could come together, it did. And as quickly as it had come together, we were using it.
Yes.
We've had the crystals that match our date signatures beside us all day, every day, ever since. We have the crystals that match this month's signature literally in front of us right now as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
We were ready to work in this direction. I can't help but note that in the past, when we've attempted to draw these connections, they didn't work. All I can say is that without being critical towards myself in any way, I'm aware that on some level, fairly conscious level, back then, the connections I was interested in drawing because I was building something. I was building the world of the angels, and I felt like this would be a cool addition.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the energy that these came together through this month.
Right.
This month had nothing to do with completing a project for the construction of the world of the angels. There was nothing project-based about it. It was a pure flow of simple joy.
Mm-hmm.
We literally had fun, and that path of fun is what led us to a complete project. And the difference in sequence here is dramatic between recognizing that there's something to do and then doing it so that you can complete the project, and being surprised that something is happening all along the way to the completion of a project.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a difference between allowing something to happen through you versus trying to intellectually make something happen that makes sense to you.
Even if you're right about it making sense, that apparently minor difference in energy makes all the difference in reality.
Yeah, total misalignment. You can't force it.
Well, it's interesting because the idea could be right, so it's not totally misaligned, but it's the difference between complete alignment and anything short of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it would not have been wrong for us to connect the dots when we initially tried to. But we were able to sense that it was forceful, that it wasn't coming easily, that we weren't confident in the connections that were being made. So we chose to wait. That in and of itself is commendable.
Yeah. Oh, it's the hardest thing to do when you
you're on the trail of something.
You can see the end before, at the beginning.
Yeah.
When you can see the end from the start, it can be really frustrating to have to wait.
Yeah.
But that waiting for that energy to be right is everything.
How many times have we had to face that? You're way better at it than I am. I really like to see something through to completion. The minute I know that this is a good idea, I'm prepared to execute. And the moment I hit a wall in that movement, I feel like I'm failing the end, like I'm somehow failing the project. And so inevitably we have to have a conversation where you remind me that I can relax and that life has genius, a timing, a flow, a rhythm that is perfect, that we can trust. And whether we're waiting a day or weeks or months or years, when it happens, it will, and it'll be perfect.
Yeah.
You're very good at reminding me of that. And thankfully, I'm good at hearing it, if not immediately, eventually.
Right.
So we take our hands off and we wait until what happens can happen authentically. And then when it does, there's no effort. Then when it does, it's pure joy. Then when it does, talk about the embodiment of sensuality. For us, these crystals are not something we encounter in books or on the computer screen. We are surrounded by them in physical form. They're sitting beside us. They're in our hands, in our pockets. This is real. Yes, it's sensual. It's meant to be. The different colors and textures. It's so much fun. So this is one of many far more than we could possibly communicate in this format. But one example of how last month's themes played out for us in real life, because one, we allowed them to mean something at the start of the month, and two, we opened ourselves, our hearts, our lives to the possibility of encountering those same themes. We permitted them to become real.
Yeah.
That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the pathways are really the keys.
That's right.
The keys to unlocking, what is actually happening here. And sometimes when there's so many words being thrown around, and the easiest thing is to focus on the pathway. So the 46th angel has the pathway of permission. So to permit yourself your delight. And then the pathway of the angel of discovery, the pathway of obsession. Yeah. These are things that as humans, we know what they mean and we know how it feels. So if we can focus on those pathways, it'll help us understand what our job is. What's our role in this process?
What do I do? That's the big question we tend to leave exciting conversations holding. What do I do next? Yeah. How do I make use of this in some way? In every case, it's going to be the angel's pathway. That's the go-to. Right. But permission and obsession, while we do have a sense for what those feel like, for what those are some pretty evocative words.
Oh, for sure.
Provocative words. Even.
Yes, definitely. They're not...
Who are you to permit yourself to ... Who do you think you are?
It's the month of totally debunking this idea of that's irresponsible.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. But we had that voice, that perpetual judgment. Each of us carries that voice inside of ourselves. We trick ourselves into thinking that we're concerned about someone else saying that we're being irresponsible, a friend or a family member. But the reality is that we're pecking away at ourselves internally, oftentimes subconsciously, in ways that firmly disallow that permission that we most deserve. So we have debunked through direct and personal experience, through empirical experience. We've debunked the idea that this is irresponsible. We've replaced it with the awareness that when we permit our enjoyment, when we permit our delight, beautiful things begin to blossom all around that decision. And the whole point of obsession is for your unique genius to emerge, is for your form of artistry to finally become your own. That's what January taught us. And all of that laid a brick in this walkway or this building, whatever you want to imagine, in this life that we now get to build on top of, we now get to move on from in February. So I got my metaphors all tangled up there. So February, we're very excited about what we're seeing here, because everything we're already seeing just between last night and today, everything we're seeing is a perfect next step, very logical next step from what we encountered in January. Before we move on to February, is there anything else you want to add about January?
Nope.
No? Okay.
No, it was, I think we covered it. I mean, certainly we could go into the examples. There are so many, but I think the crystals was perfect to illustrate the experience.
That was a good illustration of obsession. This is something we do obsess over. That was a good example. But you do remind me of another example worth sharing, at least in brief, which connects to discovery itself. Because while we rediscovered the crystals, we also actually discovered all new things, all new revelations, all new frequencies. It was like a whirlwind of discovery. The month of January, really, really special month. One of the things that we discovered for ourselves, again, through experience for the first time, was just how meaningful, just how personal and relevant the Lightyear ledger is. In particular, the colossal abundance numbers, which are included as a part of the Lightyear ledger. So if you're new to all of this, and the Lightyear ledger is brand new as of 2025, the colossal abundance numbers are a marriage of your personal signature and the month's signature for every one of the 12 months, which means that while you're working with in this case, the 47 for the month of February, you will also, in a significantly more personal way, be working with your own colossal abundance number, a completely different frequency, a much higher frequency,
Right.
which is going to take all of this month's themes even deeper into your own reality. We worked with our colossal abundance numbers for the first time ever in January. That was our first test of a brand new discovery.
Yeah.
And this is what I was referring to last night when I said I think this was the best month I've ever lived. It was literally colossally abundant. It was magnificently abundant.
It lived up to its name.
It did.
It was wild.
It did.
Yes.
So to save some time, I'll simply say that over the past couple of days, I've actually shared a short series of posts on Instagram and Facebook about what that looked like for us, correlating some direct examples of my own colossal abundance number frequency, some examples of phrases that I met at the beginning of the month that were exact matches to that frequency, and how those became real, literally real in our everyday life. That was another major revelation for us. One of the things that made January so abundant was the stream of discoveries that we made along the way.
Mm-hmm.
New frequencies in particular that we've been working with all month long, several of which were the very things that led us to this, the reawakening of this love of crystals.
Oh yeah, they were with us all along the way through all of it. It's like they just melted into, our experience that was also already very rich.
Yes. It was like this tapestry of surprises and miracles that were all playing out all at once. And I can only imagine what this must feel like or sound like to you on the other side of this recording. Like, yeah, mm-hmm. Sure. And I would feel the same way if I were listening. I'd be like, it's hard to believe. All I can tell you is it's true, and we lived it. And because of that, we're so ready to meet February. If January did anything, it showed us that the highest we can imagine is not nearly as high as what is possible, as what is coming, if we allow it. And so as much as we were able to take in January, we know absolutely there's more in February. February will surprise us again. And as we've elevated the baseline of expectation through our experience in January, February is going to level it up once again. In fact, level up, I think, is a 47.
It is. Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very much the theme.
Yeah, okay. So one of the themes in January was double down.
Yeah.
Which was, hey, if you're going to talk about this stuff, if you're going to imagine that this stuff could be true, try living it. Take it seriously. See what happens when you do. Now that we've done that, that's very much, I think, what leads us to the theme of February, which feels like, hey, you know how to double down. Time to level up.
Yeah. And actually, I think double down is more the whole year.
Oh, even better.
So this is something we're going to be encountering every single month of 2025.
Even better.
This is a new octave of that,
Good.
I'll say.
That's right. I like that. And that's what the Colossal Abundance numbers do, by the way. Each month is a fresh volume in the Lightyear of 2025. So these are octaves. This is like a spiral staircase, and you meet a landing with each new month. And that landing gives you a much higher view than you had the month before. Mm-hmm. That happened for us in January. We're here in February. A month from now, we're going to be having the same conversation with all new reasons to be mind blown.
Yes.
So let's talk about February. We've shared a lot about what January was like. I can only imagine that at least some of you who are joining us in this video joined us in that video and had similar experiences as a result of your own willingness to meet that moment so completely. We'd love to hear about that. Mm-hmm. How you know how to reach us in any of the number of ways that we are available. We'd love to hear about what January was like for you. Leave a comment, reach out to us directly, however it works. But we know we're not the only ones having this experience. We have friends who were like pace step for step on pace with us.
Right.
So we know that it's not just us. But now February arrives, and we have this whole new grouping of themes and opportunities that await. Right. One of the things, where do we begin? Do you have any sense of where you'd like to begin?
Well, absolutely. I think that typically we would look at the Liberated Tarot card. Mm-hmm. So January was the Two of Wands. This month in February, we have the Three of Wands. Yes. Which is the wand virtue of charisma.
Yeah, so it's a great place to begin.
Yeah, so I would love to dive into this word because it's a word that has its kind of mundane meaning, but we've discovered a really cool deeper mystical meaning
Yeah.
behind the word, which I would love to talk about.
Me too. And even in its mundane meaning, I've always felt disconnected from the word charisma because it doesn't feel like it's pointing at anything I can get a hold of. Generally, when a person is described as charismatic in the mainstream, I don't much care for that person. So my relationship to charisma in that kind of mundane application is like, I don't know if I love it.
Okay.
However, what we've discovered about it
Yeah.
has totally redefined it in my own awareness, and I feel so happy to be in the energy of this word this month. It feels poignant.
Yeah.
So share a little bit about what you found.
Okay. Well, I mean, if we're going to dive into the word charisma, personal charm, magnetism, those are some of the synonyms of what charisma means, but also from Christianity. There's actually a really interesting little tidbit that explains charisma as an extraordinary power granted by the Holy Spirit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's also described as the gift of grace or a favor freely given.
Yeah.
And so actually, since we're on the frequency of 47 now in February, one of the matches that I found to the 47 was this phrase, the gift.
Wow.
And so that is kind of in my mind what I'm equating to charisma this is the gift. It's not just a gift, it's the gift.
I like
really,
that.
really neat. And I think that when we look at it through the lens of the Three of Wands, we can break it down a little deeper when we understand a little bit more about what wands are, what the threes have to share and tell us, what we can learn from them. That will also sort of inform what charisma is.
That's great. Do you have notes on that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so
I didn't even consider that.
The set of virtue of wands, we have keynotes for each kind of set of virtues. Also, the numbers have keynotes. Mm-hmm. So with the wands, our words are vigor and expression. Mm-hmm. So it's a very active fire element expression. And then the threes, our keynotes for the threes are symphony and stability.
Oh, wow.
So in this new world of charisma, we're experiencing symphony and stability. Obviously, it's an active movement. There's a lot of movement happening. There's a lot of change. But what do we know about change? It is the thing that creates stability. It is the most... so the three is represented by the shape of the triangle, which is the most stable form in the universe. And also this word symphony, it's really telling. It's actually describing not a solo artist. Mm-hmm. It's a symphony. There are others involved here. Yeah. You are in a collaboration. You're in a collaboration with the universe.
Yeah. Imagine if you heard this gorgeous orchestral piece of music and you thought to yourself, I would love to be able to produce music like that. And so you buy yourself a flute and, having never played one before, attempt to reproduce that sound signature you internalize through the orchestral music. It's not possible. It's never about the flute. It's countless contributors. The flute is one part. Mm-hmm. That reminds me of what you said earlier. We each have this opportunity to sing our unique part into life, understanding that we're not left alone to produce that great, enormous thing. We're contributing to the great, enormous thing, and our part matters in the production of it. And that's what makes it so special. But we're not responsible for somehow all by ourselves figuring out how all the pieces come together and trying to suss out how in the world little old me, I'm going to be able to make this little flute also play the percussion and the brass and conduct and. Mm-hmm. It's not possible.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we learned in January, like very experientially, we have tangible evidence that when we surrender to these themes and we're co-creating with a larger mind that knows how these pieces fit together, we are absolutely benefited from doing that. Yes. And so we learn to trust that whatever we're co-creating with knows what it's doing. And this is like the next sort of step in that sequence.
Yeah. We're learning to relinquish a sense of responsibility that was never appropriate to begin with. Mm-hmm. It was never possible to fulfill what we thought we were responsible for fulfilling. So as we relinquish that, we provide the space for life to do what it does, to surprise us with all of the things that have been waiting in store for us to simply take our hands off, and life starts to happen.
Yeah.
Through us, around us. It's really exciting. Now, if we rewind a little bit to the word charisma, the part that really jumped out to me was its etymology.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned this in brief, but we're going to zoom in on it. The word charisma, we found, is derived from a Greek word that means favor freely given, or the gift of grace.
Mm-hmm.
When you read it the same way I said it to you accidentally earlier, which was a favor freely given. When you think of a favor freely given, it's like someone does a favor for you.
Yes.
That's not what it's referring to at all.
It's
referring to favor freely given.
Mm-hmm.
When you favor something, we're talking about unconditional love. Why do I love this particular crystal so much? I can't even tell you why. I just know that I do. That's a favor freely given. It hasn't done anything to me or for me that earned my respect of the stone. It is, and therefore I'm in love with it. It's special because it is. That's what favor freely given means. It's not, life isn't doing you a favor every now and again, and that's charisma. Charisma is the fact of your specialness. Charisma is the radiance of your being. Charisma is the gift of grace that produces you, that produces your existence day after day, moment by moment, breath by breath. The gift of grace, the gift, I like that a lot. That's what we're dealing with here. Charisma is an awareness of the grace that holds you. And as we become more surrendered to and more aware of that grace, we begin to exhibit that same grace. That same gravity that holds us in place as beings begins to emit a signature like a sun, and we become an element of magnetism in our own worlds. Not because we are attempting to, not because we're working so hard to earn favor, but because we're finally permitting ourselves to be held by favor, by grace. And that's what permits us to be everything we came here to be.
Yes.
Wow. That's what charisma is.
Yes. Wow.
And so, yeah, that is the gift bestowed by the Holy Spirit of God. We are direct expressions of that same life force, of that same breath. That's what is meant by charisma. And what I like about this word in our stream of correspondences is that if you visit the Three of Wands page on our website, you'll see the little icons lined up at the top of the page. And we have the prime instinct just beside the wand virtue. And the prime instinct is to cherish. And the wand virtue is charisma. It reads cherish charisma. If we break down the word charisma in the way that we've just learned, we're being told to cherish the gift.
Yes. Wow.
Cherish the gift of grace. That's what this means. Now, the next question we always ask is, how? Like, okay, so every time we wake to meet a new day, that's a grace. Every breath we take, that's a grace. Every time I get to look at you and you get to look at me, that's a grace. Every time my heart swells with love, whether it's for my wife or a stone or you, that's a grace. All of this is a gift. We learn to cherish the gift. But truly, practically, how?
Angel pathways.
Angel pathways, baby. I like that. Yes. The first angel that we meet in this stream is the angel of love, the 25th angel of love. That word is enough of a hint. Love what you love. How many times have we said that in these recordings? Countless times. The pathway that the angel of love walks is the pathway of appreciation.
Simple.
Doesn't it seem so simple? Appreciation. What can you appreciate about this moment right now? The worst things you could possibly imagine could be playing out, and there's still going to be a pocket of opportunity for appreciation. It's very hard to see sometimes. It's very easy to see other times. But in every case, this pathway of appreciation, this willingness to appreciate, to seek what is worth your appreciation in any given moment, what you believe to be worthy of appreciation, this is how we begin to cherish the gift. Because this is what opens our eyes to the grace that is given. This is what opens our eyes to the miracle as it is.
Yeah.
When this happens, we begin to embody radiance. The angel of love walks the pathway of appreciation to become the embodiment of radiance. Amazingly enough, that prime instinct to cherish comes from the 19th of 22 major archetypes in the Liberated Tarot. We refer to them as primes. The 19th prime is the sun.
Mm-hmm.
The sun is the prime that carries this instinct to cherish.
Yeah.
So that's literally what we become. Also, quite remarkably, we learned this month through you saw it, and it took me like 2 days to finally recognize the complete genius of this. The angel of love is paired with sunstone.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who love crystals like we do, sunstone is one of two of your minerals for the month.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We're going to have ours with us all month long.
Yep.
We actually found one last month, not even knowing that that was the stone of this month. We were attracted to it. We brought it home, and now it gets to be with us all month long.
Yeah.
Sunstone, radiance, the sun, magnetism, all of these things are connected, and they're all connected through this channel of grace, which you yourself are an expression, a direct expression of.
Mm-hmm.
The next angel is the Angel of Alchemy.
Yes. 47th Angel of Alchemy.
Mm-hmm. Walks the pathway of narrative design to become the embodiment of
paradise.
Paradise?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how big can this get?
But it's truly the perfect word to describe this angel's embodiment, because what you are designing through the narrative is your paradise.
Correct. So for those of you who are unaware of this, narrative design is one of 3 pillars that we work with personally and also in our Seer training. The 3 pillars are body listening, wayfinding, and narrative design. Narrative design is one of the 3 pillars upon which we've built our entire life. Mm-hmm. Narrative design is all about using your mind to consciously engage with your life in the same exact way we described at the start of this call. It's about choosing the stories that produce the quality of life you desire. That's all. You're literally designing the narrative you are telling about your own life. This is not about designing a narrative for anyone else. It's not about designing a political narrative that you can bring to your Thanksgiving dinner and convince everyone of. That's not it. It's not about a religious narrative. It's not about any of these things. It's totally personal. It's totally private. It's all your own. That's the gift of autonomy. That's the gift of complete freedom. You get to design for yourself the inner narrative that supports an outer expression you enjoy. We're not made aware of this. We are given the narratives that we are meant to perpetuate, and then we wonder why the world around us looks the same as it always has, looks the same as it does for everyone else, and why it's so miserable and difficult. The reason is because we have not yet recognized the full extent of our own power, and just how close to home that power is, and just how obvious and easy that power is once we truly understand its value. Mm-hmm. Narrative design is about choosing the quality of the story you wish to tell, because that story will produce a living reality you encounter directly.
Yeah.
We did not know we were so totally responsible for that. We thought we were responsible for the symphony, and we haven't even captured or reclaimed or taken ownership of this particular piece, which produces the symphony we want to hear. Mm-hmm. This is the core right here. This is so central, so fundamental. If we all spent February learning this, our lives by the end of February will absolutely be transformed once again. I do not say that lightly. I don't use the word transformed lightly. Yeah. I don't throw that word around. I mean it literally. If we can do this, and we can, then we will become responsible for the complete transformation of our own experience, and it will transform in alignment with the stories that we choose to tell. So the story we're choosing to tell here at the start of February is, of course, going to use all of these factors we've just shared with you. We're going to say, we do have this unique power. We get to apply this power consciously and on purpose, and we get to see what happens when we do. Laura and I will choose to do this together because we're a unit, because we love to work as a team, because we have this loop of symbiosis between us that takes anything either one of us loves and amplifies it. We're choosing to do that.
Actually, love loop is a 47 as well.
No.
Yes, and that is actually really, really a couple of key words here. What we were talking about earlier with the triangle and the collaboration, this love loop.
Yeah.
Is the appreciation, the narrative design
right.
loop.
There. Well. Okay, so now the 2 pathways become married.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to the question of how to cherish the gift is you design narratives rooted in appreciation. You literally look for what it is in this moment that you can love, that you can appreciate, that you can cherish. I love the word cherish. I told you earlier, I think it's one step even beyond appreciation.
Oh, yeah.
You can appreciate, using the crystals as an example, you can appreciate the textures, the colors, but these things are like one step back. They're kind of objective relationships, and they're altogether different from what happens when you hold it in your hand and like hug it to your chest. That's cherishing.
Yeah.
You cherish it because of all the things you appreciate about it, but one step beyond appreciation is this instinct to cherish, to hold close. That's really what we're being called to do. And the easiest way we've found to do this, the easiest way we've found to adjust the narrative is through what we refer to as the prayer of amazement.
Yes.
You've probably heard us mention this before. We should totally mention it in every single one of these conversations. Without fail, it's one of the most significant contributors to our own experience, one of the greatest revelations we've ever encountered. The simple prayer of amazement is, thank you, I love you. That's all. Thank you, I love you.
Yes.
Thank you indicates awareness of the gift. I love you is how you cherish that gift. It's how you honor the gift. That's all. Learning to say thank you, I love you to anything that unfolds in your experience, whether you personally in that moment deem it to be beautiful and wonderful and exciting, or difficult and terrible and the worst thing that's ever happened. Learning to say thank you is learning to activate the awareness that understands how life works on your behalf, that everything that happens in life happens for you, for the benefit of your life. The I love you is what happens when you bring it close and allow it to begin to flourish and to begin to blossom into that living reality, that living benefit that you know it must become.
Yes.
Thank you, I love you. This is alchemy. The 47th angel is the Angel of Alchemy.
Yeah.
This is the true work of alchemy. This is what the whole mystical world of alchemy was about. It was about taking a base material and converting it to gold.
Yes.
In that world, there was a story of a touchstone, or a philosopher's stone. This stone was believed to have a special power whereby anything pressed to that stone would automatically turn into gold. So you could take a clump of earth, a rock, a meaningless rock, and touch it to the philosopher's stone. Bam, now you've got a gold nugget in your hand. That was the idea. What that idea is representative of is everything we're talking about here.
Yeah.
When you know the truth, which is that everything that happens for you, that life only delivers good messages, that even the uncomfortable moments are productive moments leading you to something better than you ever could have imagined. So much better that when you get there, you'll look back on the difficult moment and say, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
That was a gift too. This is the work of alchemy. I have a sentence I'd like to read, and it's actually from our Seer training presentation page on the 64angels.com. The section heading it's under is the Philosopher's Stone. I wrote this piece just a little over a year ago, and it's everything we've been learning to live ever since. Here's what it says. It says, the seer must learn to convert heavy moments into conscious thank yous through grace, invoking the angel of beauty in every domain of the life. We do this through grace. We convert any given moment, be it beautiful or difficult, into a conscious thank you, knowing that when we do this, we enact a whole new track of potential as a result of our willingness to do that. This is alchemy. The touchstone is truth, and you are the alchemist. This is what February gets to be about. I have chills even thinking about this. Like, yes, let's do that. Let's definitely double down on that.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I'm reminded of the stone that pairs with this 47th angel, which is Danbury. And on your website, timothybrainerd.com, you have the set of conversations with stones.
Yes.
You've had several conversations with Danbury.
Right.
And in that conversation, what was repeated was foundation, like ground yourself, build from the bottom up. What is a stone made of? The ground.
Wow.
That is entirely like
oh, cool.
connected in a way that these metaphors of the ground or the stone are basically what we are discussing here, which is that life is good. Life is offering everything good to you. You just have to plant your feet on the ground, which is the truth
Yes.
of that.
Yes. And the truth is grace. The truth is that you are here on purpose, that you are held. Every one of us is. There is nothing to fear. To be able to say that, look, we're normal like you. We live difficult moments. We have arguments and misunderstandings. We meet personal terrors in ways that turn us inside out. We wake from nightmares. All of the same things you experience, we also experience. The fact of the matter is, there is nothing in life that defies you. That's what the angels have told us, and that is the truth. Over and over again, we see that if we will just relax into the moment, whatever it may be, that moment is exploding upward and outward into more. In every case, there is this instinct to expand. Yeah. That's connected to symbiosis. That's what's happening here in this love loop between us, and this love loop between us, and the love loop between you and your own life, the loop between us and the crystals. All of these nested interactions, all of them bearing fruit in real life ways. And we get to become a part of directing that simply by virtue of choosing the quality of the stories we wish to tell about ourselves. Yeah. That's how to become the alchemist. That's what we get to do. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the conversations with stones, you might really enjoy reading those conversations I had at the time with Dan Bright.
We can link them.
Yeah, great. They are very personal. I kept them private for years. The only reason that they're publicly available is because of Laura. And now I understand why now. Though what the stones are saying is said in confidence to me, oftentimes about me, be aware that what they're saying about me is true about you. Yeah. Those were given to me in order for me to share with the world. One day, those conversations will be their own volume, their own book. But for now, they're all available for free on timothybrainerd.com. And we invite you to go and read them and take in the wisdom that Dan Bright had to offer through those conversations. If you're going to go on any mineral hunts, crystal hunts, stone hunts this month, Sunstone and Dan Bright, two very affordable, very accessible, very special stones. We'll be working with those all month long ourselves. There's a brand new, totally updated Angel Index available in multiple places on the 64angels.com. Download that. If you've already downloaded the Angel Index before, replace it with this new download. It has correlations for every one of the 64 angels. So much fun. You want the latest and greatest of that. We'll be back in a month to share about what's happened in February and what's coming in March. I'm also confident we'll be back for other reasons between now and then. But is there anything else you would like to add to what we've already... I see you've got matches.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I have some word matches. Actually, when we were doing our sort of brainstorming on naming each one of these liberated tarot cards, what we did was we would comb the frequency matches or the word matches that matched the 47.
Yeah.
So what we ended up finding was that we were also coming up with these images that sort of matched the word. So we found the word charisma, but there were other words that were really pointing to almost like a particular image that it evoked. So what we wrote down was whirlwind, vortex, and upsurge.
Ooh, that's upsurge is good.
Yeah, it's like that's the energy of this month of February. Wow. But some other word matches to the 47 include crescendo. I mean, we're moving from a month of acceleration to charisma.
Oh, that's good.
Crescendo, high speed, hurricane, hypnotic, level up.
These are all 47s?
These are all 47s. Whirl, orbiting, equilibrium, love loop, propel, and wands. Which
wands
itself, as the virtue we know, is all about vigor and expression. It's very active. It's fire energy.
Yes.
So
I love that you added that because it is a point worth making. Yes, we've broken down the word charisma. Yes, we understand it to be the gift. This gift is moving. This gift is alive. It's meant to grow. It is a whirlwind of activity. Life is. We're a part of that.
Life is.
It's happening all around us. It's happening through us. And it is happening for us. charisma is your awareness of that, and charisma is what happens as you become aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
You begin to radiate. You
Yes.
become charismatic, which is to say you become magnetic.
Mm-hmm.
You become a personal sun in that world. And that's what all of this is helping us to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we felt the acceleration of January.
Yeah.
That happened. And it was all like this like rocket, like we're like spooling up. It's getting closer to the countdown, and then it's going to take off.
Mm-hmm.
Charisma feels an awful lot about that explosion that happens when it does take off.
Right.
The upsurge. That's what we get to look forward to this month.
Mm-hmm.
And having lived what we lived in January, all we can tell you is that we know this is what we're going to experience in February. We were curious and excited and intrigued at the start of January, but now that we've had enough time to validate for ourselves how perfectly practical this is, how direct these links are, we know that what we've shared with you today will play out. We know that we'll have stories of how these words have come to life around us.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't guess at what they are now, but we'll know them when we see them, and we will be surprised by them, as will you. So we have a really fun, beautiful month of love. February, yeah. Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
It's our anniversary month.
We will have been married for a year on February 22nd.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's really exciting.
It's the month of love. And so we get to cherish all that we most love and appreciate what's happening as it's happening. We will not take anything for granted. We will recognize each moment, every day, as the favor, as the grace, as the gift that it is.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Great.
I'm ready. I'm excited. We get to go celebrate now, having completed this, and then we get to share it with all of you and celebrate some more. We invite you to do the same, and we very much look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye for now.